Superman. So there are only a select few times where we actually get to see Superman just go out on a rage-fueled just rampage. Here is one of those times, though it is kind of against his will and not consensual, as he has been poisoned by red kryptonite. This isn't even normal or natural red kryptonite either, because that one's effects are usually randomized and are never the same. Yet here, this synthetic kryptonite that Clark was exposed to makes him super angry, furious, gives him a rage-fueled mode, kind of like the Hulk, where he just lashes out without any sort of restraint or control. Because even as the comic goes to explain it, it says that Superman's anger is growing, infecting him from the synthetic red kryptonite still inside of his system, fueled by his negative emotions. Sure, his invulnerability was keeping it in check before, but when Amanda Waller in the Absolute Power storyline stole Superman's powers, it kind of kicked it into overdrive and made him extra vulnerable to it. So even now with his powers back, until they're able to find a cure or a way to purge the red kryptonite from his system, they have to essentially be super careful so he doesn't lose control, which is the thing we're going to see very vividly here in this story. But on the Justice League Watchtower, we see the events and consequences of the last issue where Lois Lane used every bit of power she could and had in her body left to defeat the XL, the Kryptonian version of Lex Luthor. Of course, completely draining her of her Kryptonian abilities, leaving her to normal baseline Lois Lane. And even with some of the most smartest beings on the planet and or maybe even universe, and the Justice League's most advanced technology, even they aren't able to restore Lois's powers. Because not only do they not know where they came from in the first place, but they don't even know if the powers went back to the original owner, which is General Zod, or if they're just gone completely. But instead of prolonging this and taking more tests and time to truly see what's going on, Lois just decides, well, enough is enough and I'm done. I'm just gonna go back to my normal life in Metropolis and everything I've known previously. And even when Superman tries to see if she's truly okay, because, you know, a person getting that much power and abilities and then suddenly losing it just the same, potentially could have lasting underlining effects. But Lois just goes on to say that, no, she's okay. Sure, it was fun while it lasted, but she has never needed them. She has loved the life before the powers, and now she loves it all the same, powers or not. And at the very least, she lost the powers saving the city, Metropolis, that she loves. Which seems pretty clear-cut and done. You know, Lois is going to be fine. But as we get a little bit more information later, this doesn't seem to fully be the case. What is the case, though, is General Zod, even though his powers were gone and stolen by Lois Lane, and are currently just kind of in like a limbo situation where no one really has it, but it's not gone completely. Yeah, his crew and his spaceship is getting attacked and onboarded. The alien species completely overwhelming Zod and his forces due to whatever unseen and mysterious weapons they now possess. Weapons that have been manufactured and somehow got into their possession by Superman's company, Supercorp. So, you know, that's just going to be another reason for Zod to hate and want revenge on Superman. Speaking of Superman and Supercorp, we see Clark trying to get to the bottom and fully dish out justice from the betrayal of the members here in Supercorp in the last issue. Specifically Mercy, how she unleashed the Kryptonian Lex and just is almost getting away scot-free. But if Superman has anything to say about it, and he does, that's not going to be the case fully, because he even goes on to say never again. He is shutting her down for good. It doesn't matter what the law says or what legal precedences or lawyers she has to keep this Supercorp company running. Superman is going to do everything in his power, including the resources available to the Justice League and the Watchtower, to shut this company down for good. Mercy, of course, trying to plead her case, saying, think about all the good we have done together. So what if we had our little first fight? That's healthy, you know? All of the best working relationships have a little bit of conflict in them. It helps them thrive. But Clark goes on to ignore all of this and is still adamant about shutting them down. So Mercy goes on to give the big reveal that the only person who can truly stop and shut down Supercorp is Lex Luthor himself. So if you want anything truly done, you're going to have to speak to him. So Superman takes that advice and does exactly that. And while Superman is gearing up with another confrontation with another Lex, we move over once more, but not to just another part of the world or even galaxy, but to the end of time itself, where we see the aftermath and what's going on with this time traveler, this hyper-evolved version of Doomsday, who is essentially getting jumped by Darkseid's forces. These forces in particular seem to hail from the Absolute Universe, which I think marks the first crossover we have between the Absolute Universe and the main DC continuity so far, after of course its creation. And these three people here, Saturn Girl, Cosmic Boy, and Lightning Lad, they are all founding members, or traditionally, of the Legion of Superheroes, a 30th century superhero team in the future. But here at the end of time, as they are torturing this time trapper, or Doomsday, it seems they are really just here to get whatever information they can from him. Because as Saturn Girl, who is using her telepathy to probe Doomsday's mind, she goes on to say, his version of Superman is fascinating. He is so different from the one where we come from. So go ahead, keep hurting him. His mind's defenses are cracking. And I want to know why Lord Darkseid sees anyone with that much compassion as a threat. Showing you that, yeah, even though Darkseid did what he did and created a whole other universe, he still is obsessed and isn't done with our main version of Superman, who at this very moment is confronting Lex Luthor in the present here. You know, after his seemingly betrayal and everything that has just transpired. Lex, on the other hand, though, seems to have truly, or wants to at least, portray himself as being good, turned a new leaf, a completely new person. Even as Superman still is mad and confronts Luthor about killing the clone of his, Luthor simply says he did it to save Metropolis. Even Lois herself understood that, and that's why she sacrificed herself and gave all of her powers away, so Metropolis itself could be safe. Lex even going on to reveal that he wants him and Superman to be a team, to work together to actually do some good. And to prove himself, to prove he isn't just bluffing for another scheme, he says if he needs to, he is somehow able to give Lois Lane her powers back. Which in and of itself is a tall order. If some of the brightest minds on the planet and the universe at large with the Justice League's equipment and technology couldn't even get a pinpoint location of what happened, let alone try to get him back, it really just begs the question of what could Luthor do himself. He even goes on to try and play on Superman's heartstrings, as he goes on to say, just think of Lois, what your wife must be feeling right now, to be so close to greatness, all of that power. She could fly by your side, truly know what it felt to be like you. But it wasn't just about the power itself or her, was it? She knew with the power she could truly make a difference in the world instead of just reporting on it. And to have all of that future, that hope just yanked away? Yet, what could that possibly do to a person? Not even just the individual person, but a marriage. Lex saying he can help. No, he wants to help. Because what if Lois herself starts to resent him? But it seems like this conversation and where it's leading is kind of having the opposite effect that Lex would have wanted. Instead of understanding or maybe concerned, Superman just then starts to get angry, his eyes glowing red and power starting to crackle up. As his blood just starts boiling, he is angry, even against his own will, him even recognizing that something isn't right and something is wrong. Something, whatever it is, maybe it was Luthor's speech and what he was talking about, or it's something different entirely, but something triggered the red kryptonite inside of his system. And this time it's completely different from before. Because just like that, he explodes in a bout of just pure radiating power. Power just oozing off of him like some sort of lightning effect, destroying the prison. And here Superman is so unable to control himself that he tells Lex to run before, he kills him by accident or byproduct of his little rage-fueled tantrum here. Of course, then the prison guards try to do their best to try and contain Superman and get Luthor to safety, but Superman just tears through them effortlessly, just giving into the rage-fueled madness and just using all of his powers. And as this is happening, Luthor is able to actually slip away to someone who he thinks can actually help Superman and change him back into his normal persona. But here, they're actually prisoners here at this prison, Farm and Graft. Now these two, yes, they are villains, but they're not Superman's villains. They are adversaries of Lex himself. The two brothers here are mad scientists that are hell-bent on revenge against Lex Luthor, so for whatever reason, they poisoned Superman with the red kryptonite. Lex even going on to say that you caused this, your red kryptonite, turned Superman into a ticking time bomb, but now you're going to help me find a cure to save him. Of course, the brothers here are like, okay, that's cool and all, and they're intrigued, but of course, what do they get out of it? What's in it for them? Lex goes on to offer them the only real thing they truly want in this moment, revenge against him, saying that after we are able to save Superman, he promised that the three of them are going to fight to the death. With Superman, though, his condition isn't getting any better. He's still just lashing out, destroying all of the guards here, and just his mind trying to actively fight against his body, who is just moving on instinct, on pure rage, telling everybody to get away from him. And for a split second, he is able to slightly control it, enough where he can momentarily pause his actions and signal out to Mr. Terrific back at the Watchtower, telling him that he needs help. The red kryptonite is not only poisoning his system, but it feels like it is draining his powers. And if he doesn't get help quick or fast, it feels like he might just explode. But before he is able to fully end the transmission and call for help, suddenly he is shot from behind as another voice rings out saying, "Metropolis calls me to you again, and this time Metropolis must be saved. But saved from you, Superman," as we see Marilyn Moonlight, a new vigilante or hero within a scene of Metropolis. Now it's interesting because before, I'm pretty sure her attacks and whole power set by that standard literally does nothing but just empower Superman. Like, it's Moonlight based, and Moonlight, of course, is just sunlight redirected. So like, how are you going to fight and stop Superman using his direct power source that's only going to empower him? But maybe somehow due to her mystical and magical power set, she actually has a counter for Superman. Though that is a fight we're going to see in the next issue as this one comes to a close. As always, this was AJ here at the Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.